So my name's Kelvin Newman. I'm going to be talking today a little bit about SEO Competitor Analysis, and particularly the off-site aspects of that. Now, first of all, to say I'm here speaking today on behalf of the IDM. They've got a great competition running at the moment to win a Kindle Fire HD if you book onto one of their training courses. And what I'm going to be talking about today is actually a bit of an extract from one of those search engine marketing courses that they deliver quite frequently. So to introduce myself, my name is Kelvin Newman, as I said. I'm Managing Director of a events company, and we organise Brighton SEO, the Content Marketing Show, MeasureFest, Bit of a World, and a variety of other conferences that you may or may not have heard of. And I'm going to be talking today about kind of prior to organising those events, I was very heavily involved in a digital marketing agency called Site Visibility, and some of the processes we used to try and understand why our competitors were ranking, and some of the ways you can go about responding to that information. So just to kind of start off, I mean, just to get a show of hands, really, who would say that they're kind of very, very familiar with SEO? That's kind of what they do in their job on a day-to-day basis. Can a quick show of hands there? A few people? Okay. Who would say you've got kind of some familiarity, perhaps you've worked on some projects or colleagues of yours, or you've worked with an agency who do that? Cool. Is anyone who's never heard of SEO before but came along today with a bit of a sense of, okay, I could learn some stuff? Okay, so I'm going to start off with a very, very simple version of how SEO works, which we'll all be familiar with. You do some technical stuff to your website, you get some good links, and then you make some money from it, right? And there's a bit more to it than that, but I'm going to be talking specifically about this good links aspect to it. There's been quite a lot of change into what is a good link over the last couple of years or so. But fundamentally, in many cases, the best links are still the best links. And I'm going to be talking about how you can go out and find some of those. Now, it's worth starting out by stating something I think is really, really important to remember, that Google aren't the enemy. Right, and I'm going to be talking predominantly about Google, given their huge market share, but it applies equally the same to Bing and Yahoo using Bing. They're not the enemy, they're simply the referee. They set the rules, they set the parameters, but it's their game, right? So it's not them we're competing against. If we want to rank, we're not trying to beat Google, we're trying to beat the other people in the search results who are ranking higher than us. That is the game that we're playing. They are the people who we need to be aware of, and that's just how we're going to do it. So there's 4 things I think a good link portfolio needs to achieve. The first of those is volume, right? So the number of links that you have is important, right? There's caveats to that, but at the end of the day, a website that has a lot of good links is better than a website that doesn't have very many good links, right? That's understood. So when you're thinking about all of these processes, you want to be understanding, well, how can I generally be getting more links than I had before? You want to be looking at the authority of those links, right? So how trusted are these links that are pointed to me, right? And that's been about for years and years and years. Now, historically, you had good links and you had a spectrum of quality of links going down from there. And it didn't matter where it came from on that spectrum. The worst case scenario was it didn't have any impact. Whereas now, with some of the changes that happened more recently, a bad link can harm you. But we're not going to be talking about bad links here today. We're going to be talking about links that have high quality, that have high authority. And the other thing you want to be thinking about is velocity, right? And I think this sometimes gets a little bit underappreciated, right? So imagine you're the search engine. You have 2 websites that are perfectly equal from an on-site perspective, very rare, but imagine that's the case that we're dealing with. And they have exactly the same number of links and the same quality of links. How would you determine which was the best site to rank? Well, one of these websites has perhaps acquired links recently. That's perhaps a better indication that website is doing well. So you want to be thinking about this concept of velocity as well. And finally, anchor text. The words that people are using to link to you has an impact on your ability to rank. Now, in the past, I perhaps would have recommended you should be getting lots of links using your keywords as the anchor text. That's no longer the case. You want a variety of terms which reflect the variety of the work that it is that you do. If you are targeting one phrase, all of your links are using that one phrase, and that isn't your brand, you could find yourself in a sticky situation. So that's kind of the context. You want to be building a good number of links that have a good quality at a rate that is increasing over time to show velocity and with the right sort of anchor text, right? Those of you who do a lot of SEO, does that sort of generally fit with a portfolio of what it is, the perspective of what you're trying to do? Fantastic. So I'm going to be talking about competitor-informed link building, right? And I think some of the most successful link building efforts you will make will be informed by what your competitors are doing and what they have done. right? And there's a number of tools out there, many of them might be familiar to you, that help you understand that context of your link building. So the competitors you're up against, the links that they have. And I'm going to take you through 4 of those. Now, Majestic SEO and SEO Moz, or Moz as they're now known, Open Site Explorer, both are freemium tools, right? So there is a paid-for element to those tools. But none of the screenshots or bits that I demonstrate today isn't available outside of, I'm showing you using the free tool. And Social Crawlytics and Tom Anthony's link profile are completely free. So first of all, you have to determine who your competitors are. Now, instinctively, you'll probably have a good idea. But often, there'll be some surprising ones, right? So actually, are any of you in e-commerce selling products online? Yeah? Amazon and eBay, they're your competitors. Whether they're specialist or not, if they sell a product that you sell, they're a competitor of yours. So actually, there's a couple of ways of looking at who are your competitors. You want to look at who ranks. So if you've determined a list of keywords that you're going after, look at the websites that actually rank. If it's Amazon, if it's Wikipedia, they're your competitors. 2 other ones that I think are really, really powerful as well. Related :domain. So if you go into Google and type in related : then your domain name .com, that'll give you websites which Google think are similar to yours. Now, it's very, very effective. Surprisingly often, there's multiple companies in your business group. It'll pick up that there are other companies there. It'll help you get a sense of some of these other websites that are similar. One I really, really like, particularly if you're in a B2B environment, but this works very well in B2C as well, but best in B2B. So if you go onto a LinkedIn company profile, and you scroll down, and on the right-hand side there, you've got people who looked at this company also looked at. Right, so when people are scrolling around looking for people to recruit, they're looking for new jobs, they're looking for companies to go and pitch on LinkedIn, it's showing you a connection, right? So look at your website, put in your LinkedIn profile, look at the related companies, there will be 6 there in the bottom corner that are related to yours. Fantastic, 6 competitors I haven't thought of. Click on all those 6, there's another 6. So you might have 25 then, because probably there'll be some duplicates in there. So very quickly you can pick up the sense of who your competitors are. So I'm going to now talk about Majestic SEO. Now, Majestic SEO is one of the most powerful and comprehensive of link building tools, and actually it's one of the best at understanding the when. So when I talked about velocity, not all links were created at the same point in time. So the point at time at which the link was created has an impact on its effectiveness. And Majestic SEO is the best of these tools, the best of the tools at determining the when in link building. So when I'm using Majestic SEO, when I put in a competitor in there, I've got the search box here that puts in a URL, you're putting in your competitor in there, you're hitting go. What am I asking myself? Well, I want to be asking which URLs on my competitor sites are getting the lion's shares of the links, right? So which content have they produced that is resonating with their online audience to the extent that other people are linking to it, right? So I know which pieces of content I perhaps might want to produce content like. Now, I'm not just looking at the volume, which is very easy using these tools. I also want to be looking at the trust. So actually, which pieces of content might not have got lots of links, but actually got links from really highly trusted sources, the national newspapers, the trade press, the universities that are studying and talking about the sector in which you operate in. So I want to be asking those questions as well. And also, I want to be looking as well for academic and educational institutions or government institutions which are particularly supportive of your sector. There's nothing in and of itself about an academic or educational link or a government link which makes it better than a .com. But they tend to be because they're websites that have a higher editorial standard. So often that can be a good place to be looking. So in this particular example, I took eConsultancy as a competitor of the IDM I'm looking at there. And what I'm not just looking at is which websites are linked to them and then sending them an email saying, link to me, right? Everyone does that. What we're more interested in is the patterns behind that. So I looked at eConsultancy and I saw there that of their blog posts, those that have topics about avoiding a negative tend to get more links than achieving a positive. So how to avoid these 10 pay-per-click disasters would get more links than how to do these 10 tips to do great pay-per-click, right? And that sort of makes sense, right? If any of you have got a psychology background, that's kind of loss aversion going on there, right? And you're going to get different patterns like this in different sectors, topics or approaches that tend to get more links. Not surprisingly, their list posts tend to get well shared, right? Now, lots of us will implicitly understand that, but your sector might be different. So look at the content on your competitors that's getting well shared. Are there academic educational institutions? Yes, there are. MMU in Manchester, Brighton down on the south coast. They're linking to e-consultancy. They're people I want to go in and do a guest lecture for, or equivalents there. But also I'm seeing other patterns. I don't know if you know e-consultancy, but they kind of have their publishing side of things. There's kind of two types of content. They have their blog posts, often a sort of 950 odd words or so. And then they have their reports, which are often behind a paywall, but sometimes aren't. And if you're looking just at the volume of links, I'd be going, okay, I need to be doing more blogging. That's where all their links come from. But actually, if you look at the authority, where the quality links are coming to, it's the reports, which again is perhaps a little bit self-evident. Long form, higher quality content attracts more high quality links. But I've got proof now. And with that proof, I've got confidence. So, moving on to Open Site Explorer, similar kind of tool to Majestic SEO. If you're just getting started in SEO, it's a lot more user-friendly. The user interface is 100 times better, but their data is not as extensive. So that's the the balance you have to make between the most expansive data set, but a tricky user interface, or a better user interface, but weaker data. So now what's the questions I'm looking at? I'm putting the same competitor in. I'm saying, does their different index highlight different pieces of content? Right, we've got two samples. The two samples might present different content. So that's, again, I'm looking for things that have appeared there that didn't in the Majestic data. What Moz does very well in comparison to Majestic is it's very good at highlighting the domains that are linking to other domains. Right? So Majestic SEO is very good at saying that page on that website linked to that page on that website, which is helpful. Moz Open Site Explorer is a bit better at saying that website linked to that website. Right, which is, I think, often more helpful because it means that that website might frequently link to there, and they're the ones that perhaps are worth investing in a relationship with rather than just kind of pitching an idea to. And also, it's quite good as well that I can put in 5 of my competitors and it will show me relatively how different they are. So, an example, I used Open Site Explorer. Again, in this example, I put e-consultancy, Smart Insights, and Mashable. Right, 3 websites there. I looked at the similarities between them. I looked at the ratio between followed and no followed links. So I don't know if people are familiar with followed and no followed links, but no followed links being a kind of the web publisher saying, I'm not absolutely certain of the quality of this website. It might be good, it might not. And that's often what user-generated content links will have. That's often what the newspapers will give you as well. So I'm looking at the ratio. Now, Smart Insights and Mashable had a similar ratio, completely different numbers of links. Mashable, an order of magnitude much bigger than Smart Insights, but the ratio was similar, right? So I want to see if my ratio is similar, because that's what is normal to the search engines in my space. But e-consultancy had a much lower ratio of no followed links, so a higher ratio of do followed links, which perhaps have more value. What is it that they're doing? What can I learn from that? And that's going to those reports, right? So that's what I'm able to pick up there and understand from as well. I'm also looking at the anchor text, right? And e-consultancy has a wider variety of anchor text links than perhaps some of the competitors there. And a lot of those are authors, so the names of the author who'd written the piece. So, I'm saying, is there a strategy there? Are they approaching it there? I'm looking for these patterns that emerge. And also, Open Site Explorer tells you how many social shares there are, and I'll come to another tool that allows you to do that in a second. But there was a Netflix piece which they wrote, which had lots and lots of really high quality links from really trusted websites, but hardly any social action. Now, if I've got my SEO hat on, that's slightly different from my social media hat on, I want to be doing the content that's perhaps getting more of the links rather than social shares, if all things being equal. We've then got Social Crawlytics, which is probably my favourite of these tools. Terrible name. But what Social Crawlytics allows you to do is to put in your website or a competitor's website, and it will tell you of the pages on their website, how many tweets they got, how many Facebook likes they got, how many Pinterest pins they got, all of these different social metrics. Right? So I pop a website in there, it tells me about them. So it helps me understand which content is most widely shared on social sites. And that's interesting for a couple of reasons. One is because it's more instant. So actually, the Majestic SEO updates frequently, Moz less frequently, but there's still a lag, right? Social Crawlytics can tell me this morning the content my competitor published, which of it is resonating, which isn't. So you want to be looking at that as well. And I want to be questioning things like, are there particular types of content that are getting widely socially shared? Is there one network that is vastly outnumbering the shares than others? That can be good for building that business case. So say you've got a colleague or a boss who's saying you should definitely be doing Pinterest, and you're a bit skeptical. You put in all your competitors and show none of them are getting any action on Pinterest, suddenly you've got a better argument for that. Or the opposite, you're trying to build the business case to do something. Look at what your competitors are doing there as well. And I want to be looking at the underlying needs. So I'm not necessarily copying content ideas, because that won't work. What I'm trying to understand is what need is this piece of content fulfilling? And if I can also fulfill that need in a slightly different way, I'm in a good position. So, it's widely reported that social shares could or do, I'm on the could rather than do perspective, influence search rankings. But generally speaking, they're pretty well correlated. So an article that gets lots of social shares is more likely to get lots of links than an article that isn't widely socially shared, right? So what did I find here? Well, the content that's most widely socially shared doesn't always match. If you look at the website as a whole, they're well correlated. But as I talked about the Netflix piece, that's one particular example, lots of links, no social shares. There's another one as well that was 13 things to think about in 2013, and they did a 14 in 2014. Lots and lots of tweets. F all links, right? So if I've got my link building hat on, I want to be looking at the differences between them. For this particular one, we found Twitter and LinkedIn were the most popular networks. Perhaps not surprising, but now we know, we've got certainty. But you also see other patterns as well. So for example, Google Plus, where people were +1ing it, when the article was about Google properties, it was more likely to be +1 than articles about Facebook. And you'd think that might be just, okay, people tweet about Twitter stories, they Facebook about Facebook stories, they +1 about +1 stories. But it was even for other connected properties. So a YouTube article would get more +1s than an article about Vimeo. So that's a pattern I'm seeing. And this is unique to this particular one, right? They're not universal rules. But what you want to be doing is using these tools to find those types of patterns. Okay. Another tool that I really, really like. Do many of you use Google Docs for your kind of office-based software? The spreadsheet functionality is really, really powerful, right? Now, I'm sharing these links afterwards on SlideShare, so don't worry about writing them down. I think you've got to print out as well. But what this one that Tom Anthony's put together does is essentially it takes different websites. So each of these columns is a different website, and then puts how many of those links in the different domain authority, so how trusted they are. And then it normalizes that score, because state of search here has more links than our social times, so it normalizes them. And then plots them on a graph like this. So the higher along this side, the higher the domain authority is, the higher up there, the higher proportion, right? And what you find is you get a bit of a normalized bell graph-ish going on there. So these are 5 competitors here. They're all plotted here. We've got a pattern, haven't we? So if ours is different from this pattern, that can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. So yeah, to do that, it pulls data through the Moz API, or you can just cut and paste it if you're not quite so confident. And I want to be asking myself questions like, is there an unusual pattern to one of my competitors? And if there is an unusual pattern, why is that the case? So, to go back to this one here, what we're seeing here is the purple site there, which has the peak here, is Smart Insights, right? So they've got an overall a lower one, but a wider spread. They've got a higher proportion of links of 60 on the domain authority score that Moz give you. And that's because it's academic reports that have been referenced, right? Now, this is a publishing space, you're more likely to get that. But what you want to do is kind of go, plotting it like this allows you to visually see what those patterns are and potentially approach link building in a slightly different way. And it's not actually just about the actual links. It's about the themes of those links as well. So rather than going, okay, this website linked to that website, I'm actually asking myself, that type of website linked to that type of content. So say a competitor of mine to Propel, they're a recruitment agency. I go into Open Site Explorer, type in Propel London, and I'm then looking for the patterns. There's a variety of links there, again, taken from the free version of the tool. And we've got here, they've got a link from A4U Expo in London, and it's an image link, right? Because they're a sponsor. Now, what I'm not seeing there is, oh, I'm a competitor of Propel, I need to go and sponsor A4U London. That's one insight you could get, but that's the base level. Instead, what you will probably want to do is kind of go, oh, so they're getting involved in events. And that's a theme, that's a type of website. You can then go off on Lanyard and find all of the other events that are potentially sponsors you could do. You know, and it's that type of theme that you're trying to extract and pull out of the presentation. So then what I do is I go into Google and I type in marketing conferences, right? So now rather than that one link, which was A4U Expo, I've now got a list of various marketing conferences that are taking place. All of these are now link prospects that are people I could be building a relationship with. But I'm not just going to do that. I'm then going to go, okay, well, A4U Expo London, I'll do the related www.a4uexpo.com/London, and I'm then getting other websites. These are different, right? So those two lists of websites we had there, different. They're different websites that are presenting themselves. And genuinely, if I could say one tool, I mean, all of those other ones that are really, really exciting, Majestic and so on and so forth, the one that I think can genuinely change the way you approach link building is this related.domain.com, because it gives you a sense of other websites. It opens your mind to other websites that you might not have thought about. Another thing that I like to do that potentially can be quite powerful is try and track down tipping point links, right? So what do I mean by that? If I'm looking at the ranking of a competitor, and they're plotting along quite nicely in 4th place, and then on the 5th of the 9th, suddenly their rankings jump up, right? There's something that happened at that point in time. Now, it's either a website went down, which is a possibility, or actually something they did led to a result. So I'm then kind of going, okay, well, do I want to be looking at things like Majestic SEO to try and understand the dates of things that have happened, you know, so I can understand what was the link that happened, what were the series of links, what were the pieces of content that tipped them from 4th place to 1st place? Because actually, there's clearly something that's had an impact there. So to sum up, essentially what I'm trying to get across here is that there are a number of tools that are out there that allow you to look at who is linking to your competitors. They can be incredibly powerful. But what you're looking for is the themes, the patterns, the ideas behind that, rather than merely the data that they present. Because I think that enables you to have a much clearer idea of the type of content you should be producing that's going to work well on that perspective. So I don't know if we've got any questions. We've got a little bit of time for it if people do. I will be around afterwards if people have any questions. You can, you know, contact me on Twitter or via email if you want to as well. And as I said before, the TFM&A special offer for the IDM to win a Kindle Fire if people book onto any of the courses there as well. So thank you very much.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Anna Lawler from Social Line Media.
Hi.
I'm a journalist by trade, so
Yes.
my question's about content types.
Yep.
Does it become self-fulfilling if you look up, you know, video versus infographic versus text, etc., and then you think, great, video does brilliantly, I'll just do videos?
Oh, yes, certainly. There is a danger that the data becomes self-reinforcing. But it's what you need is the confidence that certain types of content are more likely to be successful, so you can then take a kind of portfolio approach, right? So it's kind of actually there's going to be objectives that you have to reach, right? And you can kind of rely on not necessarily the predictable things, but there's, you know, magazines going back years and years and years. You know, I used to work for EMAP and Arena magazine, and they had sections, right? And each month there were sections and certain types of content produced by certain types of journalists fit into certain types of sections. So there's certainly, you know, something new about kind of content appealing and fitting in certain kind of categories. But you're right, there is a danger that if everyone is kind of looking at what everyone else is doing, you kind of narrow down, and then actually the opportunity is in doing something completely different. But what I think you'll find is, as a journalist, you'll have a great instinct. And what stuff like this can do is perhaps reassure you if ever you're kind of having to build that case where someone doesn't believe your instinct, that you can use the data to confirm your instinct, which is, you know, 99 times out of 100 correct. So that's the way that I would use it. But, you know, there's a danger. Does that mean everyone's in the news space, everyone's going to copy BuzzFeed? well, you might not be able to do BuzzFeed better than BuzzFeed, but at least you can kind of understand, well, how can I take what's working from them and apply that in my space? And hopefully that's kind of where that data can be useful. That, you know, none of these tools replace creativity, inventiveness, understanding of your customer, but hopefully they make the process of coming up with ideas easier because it gives you some parameters to be creative within, and it gives you a better understanding about kind of, rather than we think our customers like this, we now know our customers like this.